Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. Is it only Tuesday? Boy, does it seem like a long week already, or what? Um, hey, it's our Tuesday night live program. This is your program. Uh, we're going to answer the questions that you want answered, and hopefully I can answer them for you. If not, I'll get back to you and give you an answer maybe tomorrow or the next week. We'll see definitely what we can do. Been kind of a busy week for sure. Obviously, we had that whole stuff going on in Tennessee. I'm so sick and tired of these school shootings. I mean, listen, if these people got mental health issues, you know who you are. Just a little pointer, just a little pointer. Um, don't go around harming other people. You want to harm yourself, knock yourself out. This is America. Okay? Do what you want. I'm so sick and tired of people hurting other people when there's no need to do so. And you really cross the line when you go and do it to a bunch of innocent little children. 3 9-year-olds. Can you believe that? What kind of a scumbag piece of garbage individual does that to children? I just don't get it. I just do not get it. And I am so sick and tired of it. I can't, it just drives me bonkers. Absolute cowards. Anyway, thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Reich. This is Crime Talk. For those of you who are not familiar with us, I am a practicing criminal defense attorney, have done so for the last 28 years. And we have our little podcast show. I don't know, we're up to 233,000 subscribers. So, I'm not sure, what are we, 60, 70 million views. So we've made a few videos along the way that have done us well, so to speak. And I want to thank you all for joining us. Like I said, this is our Tuesday night live show. We usually put out a show every day. There's always that exception. Sometimes there's travel days. Sometimes there's actual lawyer stuff that I've got to do that prevents me from doing this. But it's not your fault. It's mine. If only I put out, I guess, better content and I had more subscribers, then I could quit my day job. But that's ultimately the goal here. Anyway, like I said, I've been doing criminal defense for 28 years. I think I've seen it all, seen just about everything. But just every now and then, when you think you've seen it all and you think nobody could do something more horrific, somebody says, hold my beer, so to speak, and then they go out and do something. Like I said, I'm just getting tired, so tired of these mass shootings. And, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a gun ban guy at all. I believe in the United States Constitution, and you have a right to defend yourself. And, as we saw from the body cam videos that we had in the video today, it was good guys. The good guys with a gun took out a bad guy with a gun, or bad girl, I should say. And that's the only way you stop a bad guy with a gun. And guess what? The bad guys with the guns are always going to get the bad guys. I mentioned this in the show that we did today. I've been doing this for a long time. I've talked to lots of clients. I've asked them, why did you pick this particular individual? Why did you pick this particular house to go rob? Why did you pick this, um, person to take advantage of? And you know what it's because they didn't think they were going to meet any resistance. This is not rocket science, people. There will always be criminals in the world. Everybody acts like this is the first time that these issues have ever come about. People have been dealing with this stuff for thousands of years. Look at the criminal codes from way back when, right? Don't go around raping somebody. Don't steal from people. Don't murder somebody. Pretty simple rules to live by. And yet people have for doing it for thousands and thousands of years. And everybody acts like they're so surprised. Gee, I wonder what's going on. Maybe we need to look at the root of the problem. Uh, sure, there's lots of roots to problems, but at the end of the day, you can always say, "Oh, you know what? We have lots of people out there that had poor upbringings, in poverty, and guess what? They didn't go rob anybody. Maybe their parents raised them correctly." And said, no, you don't take other people's things. If you want something, you work hard for it. If it's worth having, it's worth working for. Not, I want to take it from somebody else. And I am just, like I said, maybe I'm just getting tired, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I'm just getting tired. But it just seems like it is getting too frequent. And I don't know what it, I mean, obviously we've always had people are going to go do stupid stuff and harm innocent people. That's just the way it is in the world. Unfortunately, I think it's human nature. And the only way you can stop that is you have to stop the bad guys. Okay? If somebody's a violent person, if they don't get taken out like the Nashville school shooter did, then you need to make it so that this violent person will never get out of prison. Or if they do get out, they're going to be so old that they cannot pull a trigger with any of their fingers. It's that simple. Okay? You can't blame it on people with mental health issues because there's lots of people out there with mental health issues that don't go around shooting up schools. There are lots of people out there with mental health issues that don't go up and shooting up clubs like they did in Colorado Springs. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And we do mitigation in our practice all the time. Mitigation is anything that potentially could reduce the penalty to be imposed, but it's not a defense. Okay? And I've had to explain that to many, many clients over the years. Somebody may be a great person. Oh, they're a great guy, great gal. Oh my gosh, they're great. Moms always come in, want to write the good guy letter. Of course, your mom's going to say you're a good guy. What else would your mom say? I hope your mom likes you. I hope your friends like you. Write you a letter. Oh, it's really out of character. People do stuff. It's not that difficult, but it's not an excuse. And this is what people forget when you come to the criminal justice system. Nobody cares if you're a good guy. At least you're not supposed to. The court's not supposed to. Remember, Lady Justice? We got her back there. See her right there? Lady Justice. Blind. Basically saying, I don't care who you are, where you come from, who your daddy is, what walk of life. These are the laws. These are the penalties if you break the law. That's it. Not that you get special treatment like the lady we saw in our video today, the city councilwoman whose father just happened to be the former police chief for, decades and decades, who just happened to probably be drunk and got out of it and never got a citation. And the cops were like, oh, did we bungle this one or what? Oh, but, we really don't have a procedure, so you can't say we didn't follow one. And, we're just doing some more community policing out there. Yeah. I don't get it. I just see here that tuition for that school is $16,500 a year in Nashville. Good. I hope they get a quality education. Certainly no reason for anybody to go harm those people. That's for sure. And what they say that this lady, Miss Hale, didn't, they think she had a grudge. She attended this school. And apparently, she was changing her pronouns to her, to him. Really? And so what? She's got mental health issues, so she wants to go kill innocent little children? Are you kidding me? Oh my god. I just wish somebody had been there. We just had this thing down here. We have a high school. It's called East High School here in Denver, Colorado. Um, it's supposed to be one of the top performing high schools in at least in Denver. I, you know, my children did not attend East High School, but the lovely Miss Kristen's children attended East High School. And oh, Frank, hold on. Our food delivery. Sorry, we got to feed the hardest working man in show business because the cold that I had, well, Frank's got it this week, so we got to make sure he's got it. Anyway, so East High School is there. They have a kid there who shot 2 school administrators. He was on a safety plan. He got kicked out of the Cherry Creek School District, which is a very, very good school district. He got kicked out for having a weapon in a high-capacity magazine. Denver then lets him come to school with a safety plan where he needs to be searched twice a day for his bag to make sure that he doesn't have any weapons. He was getting searched by the administrators, and lo and behold, he shoots 2 of the administrators. I think they're both going to recover. One had superficial injuries, and I think the other one, I think, was losing an organ or something to that effect, if I remember that correctly. But I wish them both well. In fact, one of them, I know the guy. He is a retired probation officer. And the lovely Miss Kristen and I were going to a basketball game for her niece that was playing at East High School. And one of those individuals called me out and said, "Hey, Scott." I'm like, "What are you doing? How are you?" There's no secret. His name's out there. Mr. Mason. He was a probation officer in Denver for 20 plus years. I'm like, "What are you doing here? You're retired. What are you doing?" "Oh, man, it's going to be the death of me." And it almost was. Okay. And I'm sure this is probably not going to be a very popular opinion because I'm a criminal defense attorney. Okay. But what in the hell was that kid doing in school if he's bringing guns to school? Okay. That kid is no longer the school district's problem. That kid does not deserve to go to school. I don't understand. So to make matters even worse, this kid shoots 2 school administrators, flees, ultimately drives up to the mountains, takes his own life. Part of me is like, gee, that's really sad. Or no. I mean, let's face it, this kid was on his way to prison. What are we going to do? House him, feed him, 3 hots in a cot for the next 30 years? Or maybe we send him to the Division of Youth Corrections because, he's a young teenager. His brain isn't fully developed. So, if he commits violent acts, he deserves a chance to, develop and get out early and have a life. Or he doesn't. Okay. I guess, is it wrong to be happy that the kid that did the East High School shot 2 people, one of the people that I know, that he takes his own life? Is it wrong to think that the shooter, this Miss Hale in Tennessee, was killed by the police? I don't think so. I say good riddance. If you do not want to be a productive member of society, at least try, and you've got mental health issues to the point where you think your way to get help or to do, suicide by cop is to go to a school and have to kill 6 people, I'm sorry, but I just got no tolerance for that. I just do not get it. It's just getting so old. And I know, listen, there have been prisons since the beginning of time. There's been legal rules. Nothing's changed. Heck, I always think it's interesting. Someone should go do this. Next time you go to near a law school or even a public library, see if they have a law section. Go pull one of the old reporters. Before there was Westlaw, this is hard to believe, they used to publish cases in books. And then you had to go find those cases that were relevant to your cases. You had to look in the digest, and then you went to the case. And then you had to stand at the photocopier and photocopy those cases. And it was a lot of work. Took a lot of time. But next time you're in a law library or find an old reporter book there, take a look. Find something from the 20s and 30s. It's the exact same stuff that we deal with today. Thefts, homicides, people doing bad things to children. It never changes. And yet, every 5 or 10 years, maybe 20, we think, oh, we've all got the new answer. We know what the new answer is. We're all going to fix it, and everybody's going to be okay. And the funny thing is, I remember when I first started practicing law, there were lots of guys. We had like this, what they refer to as like the summer of violence. It was always this gang violence, gang violence. And a couple years ago, things started getting crazy again. Why was it? Oh, those guys were getting back out on the street. The ones that had been sent away for 40 years, but are getting out in 20. And it's the same old guys going back to the same old neighborhood, doing the exact same old thing. Okay. Anyway. Yes. And the lovely Miss Chris. Yes, they were still doing terrible things to children, just not in mass. Okay. Anyway, just drives me nuts. Let's move on to more happier things, positive things. We know Letitia Stauch's trial. I think we're still doing jury selection, aren't we, down there, Frank? Still doing jury selection. So nothing new to report there. And then, like we did in our video today, let's get ready to rumble. We're finally there. Only a couple more days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, we start jury selection in the Lori Vallows case. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. And I hope the prosecutors get it right. I hope Lori Vallows' attorneys do a great job. So if there's a conviction, it's not overturned on appeal. It's not subject to post-conviction relief. Okay. Who knows? Maybe she'll go in and plead guilty more in a trial. As far as the defense is concerned, they are, they won. They won already. The death penalty is off the table. Okay. Do you think Mr. Archibald and his co-counsel were like, wow, we're going to win this case. This is going to be great. They may have some good defenses, so to speak. But they won when the death penalty was taken off the table. It must have been some egregious violation of discovery for the court to say, we're going to take this off the table. I personally think it was probably a combination of lots of things. And I think one of the things that, in my mind, and I can't say the judge didn't put it in order, but I really think that Judge Boyce knows that he, for lack of a better term, screwed up. And he screwed up by keeping the trials together for as long as he did when Lori Vallow wouldn't waive speedy trial. And then ultimately, nothing changed throughout that entire time. The defense says we're not waiving speedy trial, Judge. We want our trial within 6 months. Judge says, well, we're going to extend it a little bit. Prosecutor's like, oh, extend it a little bit. Won't be a problem. And besides, we're going to try these all together. That's our goal. Keep all this stuff together. And then they ultimately got severed. And guess who's been trying to move for severance all along? That was Chad Daybell. Wanted his own separate trial. He got it. What did he get rewarded with? Well, he still has the death penalty on the table. Will the prosecutors maybe drop that at some point, just kind of out of a fundamental fairness, so to speak? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Prosecution, they had better wow me. They had better wow me when this case comes about, because they had 3 years to prepare for this case. And if you go back and you look at 3 years ago when we were talking about Lori Vallow's case, little old Scott, little old me here said, you know what? It's one of those times where you need to go have a conversation with your client and say, hey, you're being charged with, Lori Vallow at one point was being charged with desertion of the children. If I was her attorney, I would have rushed in there and said, plead guilty as charged and be done with it. I think then the prosecution would have been foreclosed from moving forward. It's called a joinder issue. When you arrest somebody and it's the same facts, you can't piecemeal it kind of the way the prosecution did. When the bodies were ultimately found there on the property of JJ and Tylee, specifically on the property of Chad Daybell, the attorneys, instead of saying, oh, we're going to wait until there's another indictment coming down. Oh, really? Once again, go in and plead guilty. Oh my gosh, there's bodies on my property. How they get there? But I will plead guilty to this. And once again, jeopardy has attached would be my argument. Bottom line. Frank, I'm going to... The Facebook chats show up on our chat, do they not? Because it all comes through. Yeah, Facebook chats. Oh, see, here's a Facebook chatter. See what it says? Why exactly was the death penalty removed? Because the prosecution screwed up. That's why, Jerry. I'm not yelling at you, Jerry. I'm yelling at the prosecution. The prosecution screwed it up. The prosecution failed to turn stuff over, and there'd be no way for the defense to prepare. The prosecution was aware of the deadlines, and basically out of a due process, fundamental fairness argument, the judge said, we're dismissing the death penalty because it'd be unfair. Like I said, I personally think the judge thinks he screwed up on the speedy trial issue and trying to minimize, particularly in a death penalty case, you get super due process, and super due process means that they would go through that appeal, very, very thoroughly. Let's just put it that way. And one of the first things that needs to be made, and not that I need to give Mr. Archibald and his esteemed co-counsel any advice, but I'm assuming the first thing that he's going to say when he shows up at court on Monday morning is, Your Honor, we move to dismiss. This is outside of Lori Vallow's speedy trial. And every time they go to the bench, he should make the record. Your Honor, we move to dismiss based upon the court not having jurisdiction. This is taking place beyond the 6-month speedy trial. At the end of the day, the same argument should be made. And then on day 2 of the trial, the same argument should be made. And put it in the record so that it is properly preserved. And once again, who do we have to blame for the defendant exercising the constitutional rights to a right to a speedy trial? The prosecution, who's like, oh, judge, it doesn't matter. It's only a couple of months. I mean, we've had her in custody for 3 years, which makes it, frankly, even a little more egregious. If you think about it, when you remove the emotion of it, the fact that there's a bunch of dead children, and you look at the cold plain record, as an appellate court will do, then we say, wow, this is kind of egregious. Let me give you a little war story here. It happened just recently. I got a case thrown out on speedy trial. I know, doesn't happen very often. I've always said I can count the number of times that I've seen an actual case thrown out on speedy trial grounds on one hand. They usually, the judge, the prosecutors will always accommodate a speedy trial request. They will find a judge, they will do it. And if you go over a day or two, then they can make a good cause exception. But when you start talking about weeks and months, That gets a little harder to do. That's for sure. So I think Judge Boyce says, if I throw out this, if I, throw out the death penalty and she's convicted, they'll say, well, although there was error, it was harmless in light of the overwhelming evidence, and therefore everything will be okay, and we won't have to go do this case in 3 years again. But let me get back to the speedy trial example, okay? There's two kinds of speedy trials. You have the statutory right to a speedy trial that most states have, and it's pretty clear. Most states, it's like 6 months. Here in Colorado, it's 6 months from the date you say not guilty. The prosecution must get you to trial during that time period. Very similar to the statute in Idaho, where once again, 6 months, but if you waive it, then, basically they can just set it out forever. That's statutory speedy trial. They don't do that. 6 months in a day, case should be dismissed. Then you have a constitutional speedy trial, right? Constitution guarantees your right to a speedy trial. Well, the courts have said, well, we can keep you in custody for a while. And usually it was kind of up to a year. And I've seen it up to 2 years. And when does that speedy trial clock start? Well, like I said, in the state system, it's normally from the time that you are brought before the court and you enter that plea of not guilty. In the federal system, it's when the indictment is unsealed. Okay? So my particular case, I have this client. I show up. I don't know anything about the case really, other than I'm looking at it. I was like, this doesn't seem weird, or this seems really weird. We're in 2023. That's right. But this case number is 2000. That's odd to me. So I make my first appearance and I'm like, Judge, just so I'm clear that I'm not waiving any issues here, I want to let you know that I am moving to dismiss on constitutional speedy trial grounds. They have not brought my client before this court in approximately, and this one was 35 months. They knew of the indictment. They unsealed the indictment. And they didn't go get my client. And guess what? They knew exactly where he was. They could have brought him in on a writ. Hell, during the time in COVID, they could have brought him in on a video writ, which would have made it, frankly, even easier for everybody. They didn't do it. So, of course, we're in front of a little magistrate judge, yeah, whatever. It's above my pay grade, blah, blah, blah. So we go back. Immediately, we go back for an arraignment like the following week. Judge, not waiving anything, but I've just filed a motion to dismiss, speedy trial. Judge says, like, okay, fine, we'll set up a briefing schedule, blah, blah, blah. Government need to do something. Does the government do anything? No. Typical government fashion, they blow off a federal court's order to file any motions. Like, I filed my motion. I've only got one motion. It's motion to dismiss for speedy trial. The court, in typical fashion, then tells the prosecutor, United States attorney, hey, it looks like you may have missed my my deadline. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to give you another 2 weeks to file your motion in response to Mr. Reich's motion to dismiss for violation of constitutional speedy trial grounds. And guess what? The prosecutor finally then had to file a motion to dismiss. Why? Speedy trial violations. But he was hoping not to have to dismiss it himself, because then that'd be on him. Oh my gosh, I got to, because when you're with the government makes sure of one thing, that there are statistics, okay? Why? You have to have statistics in the government. Stats. Because that equals money. So they keep track of their little ticky-tack. Oh, we did this many cases resulted in convictions, blah, 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 little strike there, right? Little ticky-tack stuff. And they hate when they have to be able to explain why they dismiss cases. Why'd you dismiss a case? Did you charge the wrong person? Did you, wrongfully accuse somebody? Oh, no, that wasn't it. we just violated their speedy trial rights. Don't worry. Don't worry. Now, don't get me wrong. My client was happy. It's not like he's going to go sue somebody. He just wanted to get out. But that just shows you how important speedy trial is. That was 3 years. That was a very egregious case. But judges always seem to come to find out, well, it's only a couple of days. It's only a couple of months. I mean, I guess it's really only a couple of months, unless it's your couple of months where you've remained in custody and, being there. Let's take a question. Valerie, is the Idaho's lack of transparency crossing over the unconstitutional territory? Well, I think somebody should be hopefully making that record and making it a constitutional argument. That right to a public trial. I mean, unbelievable. Everything that Idaho does. I've never seen a case tried in secret before. And maybe if you're lucky, they'll throw us a couple of bones and say, hey, you can have a copy of this motion, this order. But if it's so sensitive. And here's the thing. I get it. They're trying to say, oh, some of this is privacy interest. Okay, unless it's somebody's medical records, don't really care about your privacy. Okay? It's a homicide trial. I remember seeing a prosecutor once tell people saying, the judge is going to tell you, about these horrific photos and everything. And the DA gets up and says, yeah, I'm going to show them to you. I'm going to show a lot of them to you. Guess what? Welcome to a homicide trial. This is a homicide trial here. I don't care what everybody thinks is so, their privacy interests. Okay, redact something. I mean, are we talking about children's names? Are we giving away somebody's social security number? I mean, don't get me wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. But hey, if that number comes out in testimony, that was the one that was put on the form to fill out, to receive benefits, guess what? That's a fact. That's evidence. And why should we not be able to get to hear and see facts and evidence? If the prosecutor thinks it's important for us to see, why shouldn't we get to see it? And I understand Judge Boyce's argument, we're trying to preserve the fair trial of both the defendant and that of the prosecution. Okay. I think we all pretty much know the theory. Chad was this kind of cult guy, had a bunch of followers, thinking the whole world is coming to an end. Lori Vallow, clearly a little wacky, got some mental health issues. I think I referred to her over the years as Black Widow. Everyone around her winds up dead. I think that's the reason why Chad Daybell stayed in custody, never tried to get out. I think he figured he knew he was safer in custody than having to deal with her. They meet, all right, and let's face it, Chad, not the most attractive guy, right? So then he's got this woman, kind of blonde, about his age, attractive, rocks his world, starts following him around like a little groupie, saying, oh my gosh, your books are so amazing. You're so right. The world's coming to an end, and we're going to be one of the 144,000 people that are going to be saved. But all these dark energy people, they can't be saved. And then through this weird belief, they start thinking that JJ and Tylee have dark energy. This little thing that, what's his name? Chad Daybell had penned, dark energy. Right? Don't get me wrong, there's lots of people in my life that have some dark energy, right? Like to get rid of those. You don't go around killing them. Crazy. Anyway, miraculously, like, the timing, Lori's last husband, Charles Vallow, is killed by Alex Cox. So, claimed it was self-defense down there in Arizona. Cops aren't really sure, but they don't really get around to it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. It's not really until this thing kind of blows up on national TV. Everybody starts doing HBO, Netflix series, and starts, talking about what we've been talking about here in Crime Talk from the beginning. And they realize, hey, this isn't right. And then Chad's wife, mysteriously gets shot at, then ultimately dies. And then Alex Cox dies. And Alex Cox is the guy that, we said from the beginning that they're going to place the blame. Lori and Chad are going to place the blame on Alex Cox. It's easy. It's simple. He's the dead guy, not there to defend himself. Piece of cake. He's going to be made the scapegoat. Ultimately, Tammy Daybell passes away, but don't worry. Don't read anything into this. Lori Vallow is looking up wedding rings and ordering them weeks before Tammy died. I mean, I wouldn't read too much into that. I mean, really? Would you, Frank? I mean, coincidence. What a coincidence. And then what happens? The kids disappear. And it wasn't for the grandparents of JJ, Kay and Larry Woodcock, I think the heroes of this entire story. And they say, hey, what the hell's going on? Why can't we talk to JJ? Hey, and by the way, where's Ty Lee? Haven't heard from her either in a bit. Start making welfare calls. Lori Vallow starts to panic, starts calling friends. Hey, you got the kids down there, right? If the police call, you got the kids, right? Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, 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 nudge. Yeah. Perfectly normal, right? And then what do you do when your children are missing? Your wife of 20 some odd years, I think, was it 24 years? I think they were married. I'm sure I got that wrong, but somebody could do that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then they rush off to Hawaii. And don't get me wrong, who does not love Hawaii? Okay, Hawaii is the best place in the world. Very romantic. Nice beaches, beautiful weather. You're 4 hours behind everybody, so you can get up early in the morning, and you still want to go to bed by 8 o'clock with the time change. It's wonderful. I get it. So they go out there, they get married. They're out there with their little white shirts, doing their little hula, right? And then finally, old Robert Wood says, "Bring her back," and they execute the warrant. After they find that, that's funny, none of the kids' stuff is in the storage unit. Interesting. They're off getting married and they didn't invite the kids and the family. Very interesting. Lori gets brought back. She's held in custody. She gets Mark Means as her attorney, even though he says he's also the attorney for Chad Daybell. And then ultimately he gets off the case. Although you have to admit, he kept it interesting. For sure. And as time goes on, they ultimately discover the bodies, coincidentally, on Chad Daybell's property. Obviously, people buried different locations. Chad just happened to be out there in that general vicinity, letting the wife know about, that big old raccoon that he had to get that day. Going to be burning some stuff out there. Some of the remains have been burned, charred. Once again, normal. And then there's the phone call. Where Chad is on the phone. Lori Vallow calls him, and they are raiding his residence. They're doing the search. And Frank and I have been out there. We got some pretty good video of it. It's not a very large property. And when this all came down, I thought for sure, oh, what's a big property? There's a lot of property in Idaho. It must be massive property. How would you know what's on that property? This is a small property. Frank, let me know when you got that picture up or whatever. We can show that drone footage. All right, so let's take a look at this drone footage. Okay. That's his property from that line, not that line. That's going, I think, east. This was my drone footage flying skills. Left a little to be desired. Yeah, we were having some remote issues, as I recall. We were having some connectivity issues, I think. We were lucky the drone didn't fly away. But then we figured out how to turn it around. And look, here's turn around. See there just to the right? That's the little barn building. And then that's the house right there on the edge. Right there where there's like that little line in the property. You can see it right there. Up a little more right there. That's where the property ends. It's not that big. It's not that big. And everybody like, oh, I even thought at first, oh, it's going to be huge. It's a very small piece of property. And anyway, so Lori Vallow calls Chad from jail, and he's on the phone. And he's like, I'm paraphrasing here. Don't quote me on this. They're here. Okay, yeah. They're searching around the property. Uh-huh. All right. Well, okay, I'll let you go. Okay. Maybe I'll talk with you. Yeah, maybe. Kind of likes letting them know they're getting warmer. We're getting warmer. And as soon as they find the remains, once again, a coincidence, good timing on Chad Daybell's part. He just happens to drive away from the property. Well, drives away. Needless to say, at that point, the police officers find the remains and they go and arrest Chad Daybell, where he remains in custody. And for nearly the last 2.5 years that he's been in custody, he's been making phone calls. And it wasn't until weeks before trial, after the discovery deadline, that the prosecution finally decided to go, hey, we should probably turn over those some 500 phone calls that we have of Chad Daybell. Seriously? That's why the death penalty got dropped for Lori Vallow. The prosecution screwed it up. And I get it. A lot of people are angry. And if I was, the Woodcocks, I'd be angry as hell. But I'd be taking some of that anger out, not on the judge, but on the prosecutor. And you know what? Maybe if some of this stuff was done in the public eye, maybe the prosecution would have been a little more on their toes. Maybe somebody said, hey, shouldn't the prosecution do this? Shouldn't the prosecution turn this over? Just saying. Think about it. If you knew the world was going to be watching, wouldn't you be on the top of your game? Or if you thought, hey, the judge is going to go along with everything we do and we're not going to have to tell the world what we have. Hell, the prosecutor would love to do this trial in private if they could, which is just, I think, absolutely disgusting. We, as the public, even if we don't live in Idaho, still have a right to know, to see how the criminal justice system is working. Are the prosecutors prepared? Are they fair? Are they doing justice and not just seeking convictions? Is the defendant getting railroaded? Do they have competent legal counsel? Is the judge fair and impartial, treats all parties with dignity and respect? I don't think that's too much to ask. All these secrets that Judge Boyce said that you don't have the mental capacity. You're all too stupid to see. Too much privacy going on here. The one thing we can say, Idaho, they love their privacy out there. It's all going to come out at trial. Now, a lot of people have said, well, it's because everybody on this case is Mormon, and the Mormon church doesn't want the whole world to look negatively upon Mormons. Now, I don't have any evidence of that. A lot of people have said it, but I don't have anything to say. Here's the letter from the LDS church saying, Judge Boyce, you know, keep this quiet. Um, I I don't have it. I don't think it exists. Who knows? All right. But the only thing that matters in court is not what you believe, it's not what you think. It only matters what you can prove. That's it. Maybe the letter exists in there. Maybe it's in private. I doubt it. I doubt it. Um, oh, somebody says I do, Scott. And you know, like I said, if it was out in the open and public, it's coming out. It's coming out. And frankly, what even if, okay, let's say even if um these guys are going to make the LDS church look bad. Um going to make the LDS church look bad? Really? I mean, compared to all the other religions out there, doesn't just about every religion have fundamentalists, extremists, fringe people? I mean, I was just watching the thing the other night about the David Koresh down in Waco. That was what, 30 years ago. I think it was like early 90s, where, the government went in there to arrest some people and they fired back. And I think 4 federal agents died. It was pretty bad. It's a really good documentary, really good documentary. I love watching documentaries. But that guy thought the world was coming to an end as well. What is it with the world coming to an end? If you think the world is coming to an end, couldn't you just do it yourself, do it quietly? I saw it was a Key and Peele. Something came up the other day. Those guys are funny. But it was the reporters showing up at the cult, and the two guys, Key and Peele, they have their Kool-Aid stained shirts turned inside out. And they're like, yes, is it a cult? Well, I wouldn't say it was a cult. Just a gathering of people. Okay. And well, they believed that a spaceship was hiding behind the moon, and you had to die and you were going to do it. And the Key was like, well, it's possible. It's, we're not saying we did, but, and the whole dying part, that's where we completely disagree, that's what we had to do. But it's possible that there's a spaceship hiding on the dark side of the moon, right? It's a funny little skit. It's a funny little skit. And like I said, if you're going to think the world's coming to an end, can't you just do it alone? Can't you just do it quietly, right? If you want to hurt somebody instead of just yourself, go hurt yourself. I mean, seriously, come on. I'm just so tired of it, going back to the whole shooting stuff. So anyway, 3 years. I think I told basically the story pretty quickly there in 3 years of the 3-year story. Now it's going to be a hell of a lot more complicated. It's going to be a hell of a lot more complicated for the prosecution. And let me tell you why. Because all of that data, all that analysis that they're going to put in to put the kids disappearing and the time and the phones and people coming in and out of apartments and being in the general vicinity and blah, 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 blah. They got to lay the foundation. They got to get all that in through all of the companies, through the custodians of record. Custodian of records, research or authentication. But any of the conversations in there, they still have to bring in. Just because there may be text messages from, let's say, Lori Vallow and to Alex Cox. Certainly Lori Vallow's Text messages come in. It's an admission by a party opponent. Well, what about how do you lay the authentication and foundation that Alex Cox was on the other end of that phone typing messages back when they're talking about dark spirits? The prosecution is going to have to, the only way they can get Chad Daybell's statements in is if those statements are made in furtherance of the conspiracy. So first, the prosecution has to establish that a conspiracy existed between Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, and Alex Cox. That's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they are going to do that, since they don't have one of the co-conspirators to come and testify as to what the conspiracy is. That's normally how they do it. They flip a co-conspirator. How are they going to get that in generally? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Oh, did we miss a question? Okay, I wonder if they let us take notes. Mom, do you know? Kay Woodcock. Difficult research. Are you referring to the trial? The jurors? I think the jurors get to take notes. I hope they do. It's going to be a long 10-week trial. They should be able to take notes. What is fundamentally wrong with boys? Pun intended. Let me tell you what happened. Let me show you my experience with judges, particularly judges that don't have a whole lot of criminal experience. And my understanding was Judge Boyce's experience was mostly in the civil realm when he was in private practice. He ultimately becomes a judge. Everybody thinks, oh, criminal law is so easy. Oh, really? Oh, really now? Oh, she's family? Yeah, they should be able to take notes. Why not? Yes. Difficult research, family. Yes. They have priority seating. There's nothing that says they can't take notes. Take an illegal pad. Absolutely. I would take notes until they tell you otherwise. I don't think any of the pretrial orders prohibited anybody from taking notes. So let me tell you my experience, going back to my experience with judges. You get civil judges that come in, and all of a sudden they get rotated to the criminal bench. And for the most part, most of our judges are pretty darn smart, at least the ones that I practice in front of. Most of them. The majority of them, pretty darn smart. But when they come from a civil background and they are still getting their feet wet on the criminal bench, kind of like Judge Boyce was or is, the new judges will always look to the prosecution to see if it's okay. And really, if the prosecution's asking for it, it must be okay. Anyway, as time goes on, those new judges will do trials, and there will be DAs that will give them, well, judge, I think it's okay. And the judge goes along with it, and the defense objects to it. And then guess what? It gets reversed. And so those new judges get reversed because, they keep stats on judges who are at the trial court level. And if they get appealed so many times, they kind of look at it as their appellate review, that they're odds. Do they make good decisions, well-founded and reasoned? Or are they just kind of shooting from the hip and doing whatever the prosecution wants? So my experience is those judges, after they've been on the criminal bench for a while, they realize that, maybe those prosecutors are not always there for justice. And maybe there's sometimes just mean-spirited people, mean-spirited, just mean-spirited. And some of them are. Some of the meanest, nastiest people I've ever met have been prosecutors. Just hateful individuals. And I can get along, I swear to God, I can get along with anybody. And the number of people I cannot get along with? Maybe 5. So maybe at one hand, they fit on one hand of the people that I just cannot get along with and that, frankly, I hate. And, if they were drowning, I would probably throw them an anchor. Okay. They're that kind of people. So 28 years practicing law, 53 years of life. The number of people I just can't stand or wish terrible things upon that. I think 3 of them are prosecutors. 3 of the 5 are prosecutors, just to give you a perspective. Because there are some mean and nasty people that become prosecutors. Some are very, very nice. My associate and I, we just met yesterday with some prosecutors on a difficult homicide case. And it was lovely. It was lovely. And in fact, one of the prosecutors who used to be in a different jurisdiction recalled that her only trial loss to a homicide case was to this guy. She said she was so traumatized by it, she had to take a week off from work. I didn't think she would remember. Apparently she did. Anyway, so we had a good conversation. Very, very lovely individuals. But some of the meanest, nastiest people have been prosecutors. There's this guy. Oh, God. There's this one mean, nasty person. Now, don't get me wrong. This one great trial attorney. Great trial attorney. And people say defense attorneys have no heart, no soul. Oh, please. Anyway, just to give you a little perspective there. So those judges start following. They get, they finally get reversed by some of those suggestions that the prosecutor said they should make. And Court of Appeals said, no, you shouldn't have followed that suggestion. Wrong. Do-over. Judges don't like to be told do-over. Okay. So judges then finally will get they come into their own and they trust their judgment and they follow the law and they're not afraid to make those hard decisions. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I went to a speech with Justice Scalia before he died, obviously, but he had come to Denver and he had written a book. And I was like, well, this is interesting. And let's go see his book. And I think I got it signed. And I was kind of a full circle when I had become a young judge advocate in the Marine Corps. We went to Naval Justice School. And when we graduated, the speaker was then Justice Scalia. So I'm like this full circle. I got to meet Justice Scalia when I'm starting my career. His coming to an end. Who knows where mine was going? And there he is writing a book. And he says that as a judge, to be a good judge, it means that you do not always come to the result or you get the result that you want. It doesn't happen that way. And I have seen that. And here's a quote that I use, which is basically that. And it says that it takes, real guts for a judge to go against kind of the popular grain sometimes. And when I've got a tough issue, I like to throw that in there to kind of challenge the judge as to, hey, judge, it's going to take some guts to do this, but I know you got the backbone to do it. And so judges finally start to come into their own after they realize that just don't give any favoritism to the prosecution. Every now and then, look to the guys that have, got a few wrinkles, like this guy. Look at these, this is going to be the death of me right here. The stress. Ask the guy with a few wrinkles and a few gray hairs coming in. Ask them for advice, young judges. Don't ask the young prosecutor who doesn't know anything, It's kind of like listening to a teenager. Gee, in all your 13 years of wisdom and knowledge and experience, you are so right. No, you wouldn't. So why do it in real life? Ha, Scott, you need Botox. Okay. Let's see here. Difficult girl. If you go to jail, this will help you pay I'm not sure what that's talking about. Sorry. Yeah, I'll take some Botox. If I'll make my little crow's feet go away here. See that? And this little stress line. Sometimes you get so bad. The lovely Miss Christian will say, Scott, what is that? Oh my God, what's that on your? I don't know. It's like a burst of blood vessel or something. Stress happens. Oh, difficult research. Yes, Scott. Difficult research is my daughter. Oh, okay. Well, good. Hopefully, yes, they can all take notes. I would until they tell you otherwise. I don't remember reading anything on the judge's decorum order that would do that. So, yeah, take notes. Show up with a legal pad. A lot less expensive than the transcript that they're going to charge, what, $5 a page or something for? Did we ever get that figured out, Frank? Well, tomorrow, that's your mission. I don't care what it costs. We want the daily audio so we can put it up. Okay. We'll put it up on the podcast. We'll put it up here. We'll put it up everywhere. I don't care what it costs. Just make it happen. Okay. I will give you the CrimeTalk credit card. Okay. Oh, there you go. Yeah. And, for the Woodcocks, don't get me wrong. I think the Woodcocks, they're good. Okay. Mr. Woodcock's been a very, very successful businessman. I love talking to that guy. I think he's had planes or flown planes. Just a real interesting guy. Successful business guy. I just really, really like him. Pleasure to talk with. But not everybody is, can take off 10 weeks to go. And I think the Woodcocks, like I said, they're too proud, but some of the family members, to take off that much time to pay. Think about it. If you had to go even get a not great hotel, a cheap one, what, 125, 150 a night, probably getting over 200 a night for 10 weeks, that can start getting expensive. Can it not? Oh, you like to eat? Oh, that's right. Oh, maybe gas. Do you have to have a rental car while you're there? I don't know. I mean, that's a big financial burden. I know Victims Impact panel can help with some of those expenses. They should, but if they don't, hopefully, people will. Oh, we missed a super chat. Sorry. Do you think Means told Lori not to waive speedy trial? I don't know, but I'll be honest with you, clumsy clairvoyance. If he did, good call. And I even said it. There were a couple things Mark Means did, looked a little crazy early on. Maybe not looking so crazy anymore. And, we like to call him when we see it. I mean, there were times where I thought Mark Means did okay on some things. There were some other things that I thought, sit down, you're looking like an idiot. I don't know. I frankly think speedy trial is one of the best weapons that the defense can have in its arsenal, because prosecution never thinks, even in a case like this, even when they've had 10-month delay, incompetent client, and she comes back and says, nope, let's go, speedy trial. Want to exercise my rights. The only thing I wave is the American flag. Dun, 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 dun. Right? Good advice. I try to use that tactic all the time. Frankly, I'm just looking for a big case in federal court where the client is like 70 days. Let's go do this thing. Where a case where normally it would take years to complete. That's one of those things like, hey, let's go to trial. Let's do it. See you in the court in 70 days. Most of the time, the government doesn't even have their drugs tested by that point. They don't have anything. Look how long. There's not even going to be DNA results finished until the start of trial. What in the hell has the prosecution been doing? What in the hell? Okay? Just saying. All right, ladies and gentlemen, can you believe how fast that hour goes by? And guess what? We got to go do a Patreon show. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, Although tonight was kind of me talking. Sorry, it just kind of kept going like that. But if you'd like to continue the conversation, jump on over. We're going to do a Patreon show. If you're not already a Patreon, I think you can find the link down below. Boom, you sign up, you get access to our Patreon stuff where you can actually call in. And more importantly, we get to ask the Magic 8 Ball questions. Magic 8 Ball. I guess we'll have to see. Maybe the Magic 8 Ball question, and you have to tune in to see. Maybe it'll be something along the lines of, will Lori Vallow plead guilty on the first day of trial? Will we get a jury faster than expected in the Lori Vallow trial? Maybe we can ask all those questions. All right. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, wonderful evening. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. Come join us on the Patreon page.